Apparently you liked it, so I'm back talking about the Mavic Pro. Well, in fact, it's more like the Mavic Pro today. Yes, I dipped it, but it was not my fault. Let me explain. A few days ago, while I was working on this vlog, I crashed my drone. I suddenly totally lost control of my Mavic Pro and it went straight into I dipped it into the river. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of that. I thought the Mavic was recording, but apparently it wasn't. Or maybe I lost my footage with the crash. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I was so panicked, I never thought of taking my camera to shoot the whole event. The only thing I had in mind was to find my drone as soon as possible. I was sure I had lost it forever. So what I have to tell you today might be the most valuable tips you'll ever get concerning your Mavic Pro. In fact, I'm going to be talking about the deadliest function, which also happens to be one of its greatest features. But for now, here's how the whole story began. Roll the clip. This is exactly where it all started. Now let me show you where I started my drone. This is exactly the home point of my drone. This is where I was standing, and my intentions were to lift my drone about 50 feet in the air and to have it follow my car in active tracking mode this direction here. Now you can notice that it's a quiet place here. Today it couldn't be worse than that because it's Friday. By the end of the day, everybody's off for the weekend, so it can't be any crowded than that. I want you to notice all the trees that are around here. But that was not a big problem for me because I had no intentions of coming back here, and I have planned to fly above that altitude. So that was not an issue for me. So I lifted my drone in the air and I activated the tracking mode and I went this way. Now follow me. So that's exactly the road I took with my drone following me above and behind me at about, I would say, 75 feet probably. This is where I was coming out of the woods here, and I made a right here to go into that direction. And from that point here, that's where I received the first signal for the low battery. So I immediately decided to pull over there and to take control of my aircraft. But about 5 to 10 seconds after that, so while I was parking my car, I received a second signal telling me that the RTH was going to kick in, which means the drone was about to go back to his starting position and land over there, which I didn't want to happen. I wanted to avoid it. So we'll now move on to that next location, which is the fatal one. So this is exactly where I pulled over. And from that moment here, my drone was still at about 50 feet in the air, maybe more, let's say 75. I got out of my car, tried to take control of my aircraft, but it was fighting against me. I lowered it at about 20 feet, I would say, and from there it wouldn't want to land. So I was fighting for it for about 30 to 60 seconds. Those 60 seconds seemed to me like an eternity, trying to shut off all the windows that were popping on my screen because I couldn't understand any of those signals. It seems to me like I was doing the right thing, but apparently I wasn't. And then suddenly, after, like I said, 30 to 60 seconds of total distress, it decided to go back to its own point. So the RTH kicked in and it went straight into that direction over there, hitting those trees over there, because it never went at its programmed 50 meters altitude, which it should have done, but it didn't. So that's why I'm telling you that the RTH function is the deadliest function there is. I have a message here for DJI. Here's my message to you, DJI. Now first, I want to thank you for making the greatest drone there is, the Mavic Pro. I love it. Now, on the other hand, what I want from you, what I'm expecting from you, is to modify the RTH function in the Mavic Pro, because it's the least understood function. First, it shouldn't be called RTH. RTH doesn't even say that it's about landing. It should be RHL, return home landing. Now, don't get me wrong here. The RTH function is a great feature, but it's also the most misunderstood feature of the Mavic. How do I know that? In your video here about the 10 most common mistakes by pilots, the RTH is involved 3 times out of 10. So it means it's not clear for the pilot how to deal with it. So your responsibility is to make it clearer. So when the window pops on our screen, it needs to be very, very clear. Return home landing, yes, or land manually, yes. That's it. No small characters, because some of us, like me, can't read very, very tiny. We can't read that. So it needs to be clear. And when you hit that land manually, leave us the time to land our craft, at least 1 minute. If we touch the joystick and we make the drone go down, it means we want to land it. So the RTH should not kick in again. But if for some reasons there's no time left to land the craft manually and it wants to go back and return home landing, make sure it's going to go back to its pre-programmed altitude. I've heard a lot of cases where it didn't. How I know that? I'm on many forums and I hear that many times every day. It's a great feature, but it needs to be fixed. So by making that feature, that function clear, it will save a lot of crashes. Thank you, DJI. Now, I also have a recommendation for every Mavic owners. Deactivate that function now. As long as DJI hasn't worked on it, it's too dangerous to keep it on. In every situation, when you move with your craft and you don't want it to go back there on location because you plan to land it yourself when the low battery signal will kick in, deactivate it now, right now. I think there are way more situations when we don't need it than situations where we do need it. There are exceptions to that. If you're on a boat, maybe you would prefer it to go back on the shore. Then in that case, activate the RTH. Same thing if you intend to fly your drone out of sight. Leave it on. And if ever it kicks in, don't touch anything. Don't try to land it. Don't try to take control over it. If you stayed at the same place, don't touch anything, it will come back to you. Be aware, if you start fighting with your drone to take control of it, you will probably ruin the entire program into the RTH mode and you will probably crash your craft. So that's my suggestion here. Now I would like to take this moment to thank all my subscribers and especially the new subscriber who joined the community since my last video on the Mavic Pro. That video only got me over 1,000 subscribers in less than 2 weeks and over 54,000 views as of now. It's amazing. It's a lot. What can I say? So thank you very much, and please be there for my next video where together we will find out if the Mavic Pro survived the water crash. See you next time. Those are the 2 most important things that I've learned in the past 4 weeks with my Mavic Pro. That's exactly where we found it. But the creek was not frozen, it was water. Let me show you exactly. I'm gonna make a mess here, I'm sure about that.